All right, the S&P 500 on Friday was down almost 6%. We've talked about how they don't like to drop at more than 2%. They don't like to let it fall, but it seems as if we are now about to enter a full-on market crash. Panic was at all-time highs. We talked a lot about that yesterday. We need to talk about what's going to happen Monday, what's going to happen this week. Are our short squeeze plays going to actually have a massive squeeze? I didn't get any sleep. Watch until the end of the video. Like the video for me. It's free. That is all I ask. And I'm going to basically break down what I assume is to come, and we're going to touch on the charts right now. So, first things first, 2-hour time frame, 1-hour time frame, 3-hour time frame, 4-hour time frame. RSI is oversold. All of the micro time frames, the RSI is very, very oversold. This is the relative strength index, and it is below the 30. Okay, you can see that it is in the red, meaning it would be technically due for a short-term bounce. Now, the SPY from all-time highs dropped about 17.5%. Bear market territory is about 20%, which would bring us right down here, which is right basically near one of my key support levels at 493. Okay, the next level is 493, and we currently close at 505.28. Are we going to hit that level? You can see on the daily time frame, RSI also oversold below the 30. We move on to the weekly time frame, RSI also oversold below the 30. Now, the monthly does paint a little bit of a different picture. The RSI is only coming down to the mid-range, just breaking under. It's at 48.32. The mid-range is the 50. The top of the range is the 70. Now, you can see the key times that the SPY has actually neared this level or broken beneath. It dropped, well, recently, the recent ones, right? 27%, 35% on the SPY. We are only down 17%. And then you could come all the way to back here, October of 2008. The RSI broke well beneath this. Okay, but you can see that it got a decent rebound before crashing even further. Okay, so we take a look at the RSI. We see that it is due for a technically short-term bounce, but is it due for a full-on bounce? There are a couple of easy things that you can look at on the daily time frame. Let me just remove the drawings right here. I told you that if the SPY decides that it wants to go down under 510, I said this in the afternoon in yesterday's video, if the SPY wants to come down under 510 towards power hour, towards market close, and press against that, you're likely going to see more sell-off come Monday. Even though the RSI is telling us something different, the charts look very, 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 very bad. And the reason they do is because we saw an increase in volume on this sell-off right here, this gap down from 567 to the bottom of this candle at 537, gap down with increased volume, almost double the volume. Then we saw another gap down with almost double the volume as the previous volume candle, meaning sellers are in control for one, but there are harsh sellers in the market, and actually liquidations happening, margin calls happening, and we're going to talk about that as well. But the key thing to point out is the bottom of these candles don't have a wick. Okay, the bottom of this candle didn't have a wick. The bottom of this candle didn't have a wick. The bottom of this candle didn't have a wick. What does that mean? That means as far down as the market is dropping, there's not institutions buying the dip. As far down, coming down to 505.28 on Friday, nobody wanted the SPY at that price. Nobody wanted stocks at these super, quote unquote, undervalued levels, which paints a very, very scary picture over the near term. Now, this does, I do have some contradiction to this a little bit later in the video, and we'll talk about a little bit of tin. The put to call ratio to close the week, or coming into next Friday, I should say. Coming into next Friday, we have 345,000 puts, 273,000 calls. So puts are still heavily outweighing the call options here. Now, there was also a little bit of tin from Roaring Kitty's post, January 2nd, 2000, waiting. January 22nd, he's waiting for a .com bubble style crash. Now, this is 2000. This is during that crash period. You can see that the SPY made a high back here, March of 2000. And then we sort of crashed down from here. Let me see. Okay, I had to reload my charts. We crashed down from here, and then we kind of got delayed until a further market crash. And this one lasted a total of 39%, almost 40%, which would bring the SPY extremely, extremely low, sub 400. Okay, that would bring the SPY sub 400. That would be absurd. Now, this could be a little bit different. We don't actually have to see that style of a crash, and I'll talk about it in a second. But Germany considers withdrawing 1,200 tons worth of gold from a U.S. Federal Reserve vault following new tariffs. Again, didn't get a lot of sleep. I just wanted to throw this in the video. With all of the tensions happening, there are tensions between the U.S. And Iran. There are tensions with these tariffs, especially with China. And then there are things happening with gold. Bonds were dropping. Overall, a crazy market that we're in. Now, one thing that is bullish for the market is Jim Cramer is calling for a potential Black Monday, which is technically bullish because this guy is always wrong. Now, we saw that hedge funds were hit with the steepest margin calls since the 2020 COVID crisis, okay? This is important. They weren't just hit with regular margin calls. They were hit with Lehman-style margin calls. And we are only 2 days into a very, very harsh crash, a harsh sell-off. I mean, this is hard to prepare for when you just have 2 straight down days. This is insanely hard to prepare for. From the top of this candle up here, right? Let me see. Price range. From the top of this candle, right up here, SPY dropping about 10-11% in 2 days. I mean, that's hard to prepare for. So you're seeing liquidations happen. Another thing I want to jump to before GameStop, AMC. Did anyone see this? We jumped almost 12% after hours. Very, I would say odd, but not odd based on the algorithms that we're tracking. Here's a couple things that we can see. We can see AMC recently built this low. And then we've broken the low. We crossed it right here, coming all the way down to about 245, 246, which also happens to be the low back here, the support, right? We got this wick down, but ultimately this low, okay? This is the identical pattern from back during the 2021 move when we made a low, and then we came down. We kind of did something similar. I'm sorry, right here, we made this low, and then we made the same low. We've broken below it in a longer time frame. Then we got this wick, and then we started to climb, which is something that I called out for. AMC climbing right here and then squeezing in the next couple of weeks. We also have, I do want to point out, I was going to put it a little bit later in the video, but April 7th, Monday, April 7th, National Beer Day. So people are talking about, right, is it possible that we saw the flag and then the music as Trump's tariff news, and then we see the fire sale, and then next comes the boom, right? We are seeing the fire sale across the board. I mean, not necessarily, I mean, everything's a fire sale with GameStop at these prices, but not necessarily a fire sale. We were up 11.3% while the markets decided to drop. The past 2 days, markets are down about 11%. GameStop on Friday up 11.3%. However, we are not out of the woods just yet. If we bring in the cycle pattern that we see that this is an algorithmic move. Okay, we see that this is an algorithmic move, and the low would be in between April 11th on that Friday to the next Monday over the weekend, April 14th, which also would correlate to a potential another week of selling pressure for the S&P 500 to get it a little bit lower down to 493 or lower than that. My best case scenario, even though we saw some dangerous candles, is over the weekend we get a very bullish catalyst and we get just the tiniest bounce on Friday, I hope, between 516 and 525, and then potentially more downside from there. But overall, we can see a V-shaped recovery, and I want to warn everyone for that. And the reason for that is because I've showed you guys on Friday this zone that it's in, that it entered. Yes, we did come under it, but we did come under it back here. But this zone acts as a heavy demand zone normally, even though we didn't see buyers step in here. So we can see a harsh V-shaped recovery and then shorts start to cover their positions. Based on what AMC is doing, AMC is reading that it's about to be January 11th, right? AMC's reading that it's somewhere right here. If we saw that same thing, then we don't need to see this little algorithmic move play out. We could just see a squeeze from here. And this is a very, very high possibility, especially with National Beer Day, 420 being the end game, all this other stuff. 420 is the point of interest. So I don't see a world where this can play out to a T, where we just sell off, sell off, sell off, sell off, sell off into May. At this point, I would be rooting for some sort of squeeze higher. However, I do want to prep you guys. Okay, all of the bullish, all of the bearish that we just talked about, we have a sign on Bitcoin. And I have a prediction on Bitcoin. It might not be the funnest or prettiest prediction, and it also might not pan out based on several different factors. And we saw the SPY trade with those dangerous candles. Okay, we see very harsh moves down on Bitcoin down to 77, slight bounce back up to 78. And then we flush to 73,900, almost 74,000, and that will be the bottom. Then we get this rocket. Now, keep in mind, I do want to state one thing. If Bitcoin gets back above 96,600, I will call on another high on Bitcoin, possibly, right? Especially if things are squeezing, possibly above 240,000. That's if things begin to squeeze. And I could easily jump into the weekly logarithmic scale, pull up the Bitcoin power law corridor, but I'm just going to give you, that is my brief prediction for the markets, for Bitcoin, so on and so on and so on. Based on GameStop as well, assuming that we don't get the squeeze right away off rip on Monday, we see a flush on GameStop, we see a flush on Bitcoin, we see a flush on the markets. Overall, Bitcoin and GameStop could flush while the markets do get a relief rally because they didn't flush prior. This is just a major warning. We have a lot of stuff this week. We also have this new case down here, CAT data. Officials have cited that CAT data in the prosecution of alleged $47 million front-running scheme, the exposure of alleged fraudulent trading, and a review of the 2021 GameStop short squeeze. So they could, I don't know exactly the full transparency of this or what it means, but could it mean that they have everything time-stamped, tracked, ordered? This shows the routing, the spoofing, the internalization from the 2021 short squeeze, and it will become public and things will happen. Is the cat out of the bag? The cat system hunting short sellers? Who knows, right? But I did want to throw this in the video. I also want to just put this in the video at the end. Things could be due for a bounce. And based on, this is also based on Ethereum's chart and Ethereum cycles. I'm very surprised that we didn't see a bounce yet with Ethereum, because you can see in this part of the cycle, Ethereum did get a bounce both times. So if we don't see this bounce around 1700, I would be surprised. But that is what I got for you guys for today's video. Again, hopefully I have a better video that preps you with economic data, earnings, everything for tomorrow coming into the weekend. Maybe I will have a different perspective if I get some sleep. But that is what I got for you guys for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed watching or found value out of the video. Make sure to subscribe. We are almost at 32,000 subscribers. We could probably hit 33K in one video if everyone pressed the button, but people choose not to do that for some odd reason, even though what I bring you is completely free. The top 2 links in the description are for the Discord server, where you can talk stocks and crypto all day long with the best people, best vibes. See my trades as soon as I take them. People are making a killing in there. Somebody just made 19 grand on some puts in there. People are starting, right? People were originally in the Discord, some people, and they were saying how, you know, they want a refund because they don't know if trading's for them. I said, hey, stay, try it out, see what happens. And now their accounts are growing, and it just changes the game when you really get in a group like this. So get in. It's the top link in the description. I have free stocks in the description, and that crazy benefit, if you didn't get it yet, get an instant funded account half off with my code LOTTO. It's the second link or third link in the description for Top 1 futures. If you guys don't have that, trust me, you're going to want to do it. But that is it. I love you all. God bless. Lottery Stocks out.